Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. Thank you for joining me today. Let's bring the mic a little closer. It's Friday, September 13th. Oh no! Friday the 13th. But heck, when you live in Canada under Justin Trudeau, every day feels like Friday the 13th. We'll be back in a minute to discuss the death of the Liberal Party. And I'm not the one who said it. Yes, as Sasha the Cat always demonstrated. Please like this broadcast, hit the bell, give us the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, resubscribe if you must, please. Thank you for the support you've shown this week. We're heading towards 30,000. I know that's a small station, but there was a time when I wondered if we'd ever hit 20,000. So I'm grateful for your support. I hope we're offering something a little bit different here, meaning that I spent a lot of time in this business. And I'm doing this because I really want to share some of that with you out there. And it's been such a joy to just talk about the past I've had in journalism and how it equates to the present, what I'm trying to do here with new media. And it's funny, isn't it? When you watch the mainstream media after having not watched it on a regular basis, it's like watching a culture war. It's like realizing there's two narratives, at least. We know there's at least two. We know there's two genders only, but there's probably about three or four different narratives out there in terms of how the world is being interpreted by the mainstream media. It's not the same message as you see on social media, as you see on new media or independent media. And it's so I'm working with both right now as an independent journalist, doing this for you every morning, 7 days a week, usually, and as a member of the new media, as a writer for and columnist for the Post Millennial and Human Events. As I hope you have a chance to read some of my material on there. I'm writing about 8 or 9 stories a day. I don't sit here and read them to you. I don't really think you want me to do that, but occasionally, if something is really good, I'll read an excerpt from it. I will reference a story I did yesterday on the presidential debate, but we're really talking about. I know people are saying, what about the Liberal Party being dead? But before we get into that, just a reminder about the merchandise store, because it's safe to say,
The
go ahead.
alternative is really cold and cruel and small.
Yes, and don't forget our I am a Canadian, a free Canadian t-shirt. That's been a huge, well, I'm gonna say huge. It's been an interesting piece of merchandise for a lot of you viewers. And I have my shirt here. It's the preamble to the Canadian Bill of Rights for 1962 from Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. And of course, it became very popular during the Freedom Convoy because a lot of folks thought the Charter of Rights isn't there for me. But it is. It is, and we have to make it our Charter of Rights, just like the Bill of Rights is part of Canada's heritage, traditions, and freedom as well. So I don't think they're opposed to each other. I think we need to use them both because we have to realize that Canada was historically a country of freedom. Don't listen to the woke ideologues, the woke left who tells you that Canada is something we should be apologizing for, that the Canadian history is something we should be ashamed of. That's a lie from the pit of hell. I'll tell you that. It's a lie. Canada is a great country. We fought well above our punching weight in 2 world wars. We defended freedom overseas in the Second World War. We fought the Nazis. We did what we needed to do. And those veterans came home again to a Canada that was still free, and they lived their life out in a Canada that was still free. Some of them still with us. God bless them. I used to spend so many remembrance days chatting and talking to our veterans because they have stories that are important. And you know what they always said is we don't want another war, and we sure as hell don't want another war right now because it's going to be a nuclear one. And I won't get into that today. But I put that out there because, yes, NATO continues to be on the verge of a nuclear war with Russia, and it's insanity, crazy. So let's get on to why am I saying the Liberal Party is dead? Well, I'm not actually. It's liberals who are saying the Liberal Party is dead. Amongst them, my old friend, Dan McTeague, former Liberal member of Parliament from Mississauga. And of course, now is doing some great work on energy. And he's the guy who not only knows when the price of gas is going to go up or down, but he is out there criticizing the carbon tax and everything it's doing to impoverish Canadians and push the price of gas up and push the price of everything up. And that's why we do need to axe the tax. So Dan is a traditional kind of liberal who never bought into the woke ideology of Justin Trudeau. And that's what he says here. I'm not going to say this is a secret meeting. It wasn't supposed to be. It was just not very well publicized. I think very few people saw this. Adrian Batra of the Toronto Sun is the moderator here, and they've got 4 fairly prominent liberals, including Stephen LeDrew, who was the president of the Liberal Party of Canada. Yes, the president of the Liberal Party of Canada, one of the most severe critics now of the Liberal Party. You've seen him probably on Tucker Carlson's old show. Yes, when Tucker was still working for Fox News, he would have Stephen LeDrew on just about every time he wanted to talk about Canadian politics, some Canadian outrage of the week. He'd invite Stephen on. He's the guy with the multicolored glasses, but I like the guy because he's honest and he's frank about his own party. He still calls himself a liberal. I don't know how he can, but that's his business. As long as he has the guts to stand up and say there's something terribly wrong here, and that's what this debate was all about. Be it resolved that the Liberal Party is dead. I encourage you to watch it on Stephen LeDrew's page. It'll be in the description. He's got what he does, these 3-minute rants. Some of them are quite entertaining. Encourage you to watch those. But here's Stephen LeDrew talking about, and he actually doesn't take the yay side, be it resolved that the Liberal Party is dead. He takes the contrary, but he's not fooling anybody there. Let's watch this.
Sven, can I get a sign on my lawn? I get a sign on my lawn, Team Trudeau. So I called him, I said, Sven, why does it say Team Trudeau? Well, because we were told by the PMO, not the Liberal Party, by the PMO, that it needs to be Team Trudeau. That is not a Liberal Party, Jack. Stephen, I should say this. Your chair should be over here. I've seen you on LeDrew Live. I've seen you on 3 Minutes LeDrew. You couldn't give a rat's ass about the current Liberal Party. You should be over here on this side.
Okay, Stephen. All right.
Madam Chair?
You can't let that go unanswered.
Thank you very much.
You have your 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
I'm going to point out and use as evidence what Jack just said. When he said, when Trudeau goes, there are a number of ministers, and there may be other people who are not ministers, who can take over. And when the cult of personality is over, there will be Liberals who realize that in order to win an election, they're going to...
That's significant. Because here's the former president of the Liberal Party saying that there's a cult of personality in leading the Liberal Party, or trying to lead the Liberal Party, namely Justin Trudeau. And he goes on to say it has subsumed every other apparatus in the party. Let's listen to this.
They're going to need riding associations. They're going to need people going out canvassing. They're going to need people picking a candidate from within the riding who will get out there and hold up the Liberal flag. There will be a rebuilding of the party. You don't rebuild something that's dead. It's not dead. It's just, as I said, there's a hiatus, and it's because of the cult of personality of Trudeau, who runs everything along with the rest of the PMO. There's no cabinet that does anything right now. There is certainly no party that does anything right now. And so the party is not dead, as I said in my outset. Jack, and I know you'll agree with me on this, repeat after me. There are millions of Canadians who will vote Liberal once Trudeau is gone.
They'll be voting that way even if he stays.
Actually, you know what? Actually,
Millions, but there will be millions.
there will be some, but Paul Martin found out that a lot of Liberals, if they don't like what's going on, they won't vote. And they'll come back and vote afterwards.
So what's Stephen LeDrew here saying? He's predicting if Justin Trudeau stays as leader, a lot of Liberals would just not vote at all. That often happens with Conservative voters when they're discontented. But actually, he's not quite right about this, because every poll indicates the Canadians are not just mad at Justin Trudeau, they're mad at the Liberal Party for going so far left. They're mad at the policies. They're mad at the Liberal Party policies. It's not just Justin Trudeau. So put a Mark Carney in there, put a new face on top of the Liberal Party. It's not going to make a difference, because, as Pierre Poilievre never hesitates to say, Mark Carney is carbon tax Carney. He is just as bad, if not worse, than Justin Trudeau for imposing globalist ideas on Canada, imposing the globalist agenda on Canada. That's where Mark Carney comes from. He's the most likely successor to Justin Trudeau. It will make no difference. The Liberal Party is dead. And here's Dan McTeague confirming that.
Not to say the death of the Liberal Party, but to say that the Liberal Party, as we understand it, is transforming. And it's transforming to a very different organization than the one which I grew up with, the one I understood, and the one I served for 18, 19 years as a member of Parliament in the House of Commons. Rather than being a party that espouses the idea of the positive nature of the state as a means of improving human conditions, improving social security, as a means of empowering freedoms, the Liberal Party, I think, has become anything anathema of the very thing it used to become. It used to be. It used to be a party of the centre, where it could balance certain on many issues and find that very famous word. My good friend Howard Brown from many years ago, remember the word, we actually had a thing called consensus in the Liberal Party, where we thought and struck out to try to find the common elements that kept this country together. We're a party, a regional party, for which many of our regional organizations are in disarray. In the western part of this country, it's not uncommon as to what we've seen in the past. We now see British Columbia. We are now seeing evidence of the demise of the party in many respects, and it won't come back because of the cult of personality. You get a whiz-bang person who has, great hair, great selfies, or whatever the case may be. You're not going to win the minds and hearts of Canadians who now feel that after several years, the country has taken a turn for the worse. And it will not be acceptable to simply say, well, this is happening globally, therefore it has to happen to Canada. No. The Liberal Party bases itself on a tradition of finding the common element that unites us and bonds us together, looking out for each other, trying to find how we get that common sense to Canadians to be able to provide opportunities for them so that we can avoid some of the pitfalls that we avoided in the past. I belonged to a government in 1993 to 2006 that was able to build and construct a financial situation that prevented us from having the chaos that many parts of the world saw in 2008 when we saw the global recession. Canada weathered it extraordinarily well because of some of the fiscal prudence and measures that we took, very difficult as they were in the 1990s. That realpolitik, that idea of making sure that we could respond effectively and practically to things and issues as they came up, meant that we had to have a skilled bureaucracy. We also had to have good policies that were able to anticipate as well as build and defend the country to the extent possible. We seem to have lost that because we have lost our ways. We have taken upon ourselves the positions of accepting things like censorship. We've accepted the idea that certain forms of freedoms in this country are interchangeable. They're trade-offable. It brings us back to the dangers that we saw in 1970. Yes, when Jack was just a young buck back in those days. At the end of the day, the Liberal Party as we know it is not going to continue. It will be a party very much of the hard left. Thank you, everybody.
Excellent summation at the end there. So the Liberal Party is dead, very clearly. I think it's beyond resuscitation, and hope to have another clip on with people addressing how in the hell did Bill C-63 become Liberal policy. Nobody asked any of the rank and file. It never passed the policy convention. Nobody decided that that's what the party stood for. Justin Trudeau decided that. Justin Trudeau, he is driving all of the policy in the Liberal Party in the woke direction, in a far, hard left direction, and he wants censorship above all. And that's, of course, one of the reasons I suspect he's hanging on to power and he will not prorogue Parliament in the fall. A new Liberal leader might do that. But I don't think he will, because he wants that legislation to pass, the online harms bill, Bill C-63. He wants that to pass. Above anything else, that is his goal. And I think that is why he's hanging to power, clinging to power, because that Online Harms Act will be part of his future in the globalist regime. You know where he's going from Canadian Prime Minister? He will be going to Davos. He will be going to the World Economic Forum. He will be going to the United Nations. He will be going to a globalist entity to continue to push the policies he pushed as Canadian Prime Minister. He will do that on the global stage. He'll continue to try to harass Canada, to kick us in the rear end. That's Justin Trudeau's future. He's just biding his time until it's the appropriate moment to do that. And it's all about maximizing the damage he's doing to Canada. Just want to briefly pause before I go to the next subject, because we're going to talk about Jagmeet Singh. But here, look at this poll. Are you able to qualify for the Liberal Party's or the Trudeau government's dental care program? 1.7K votes. 95% of you said no. I hear it all the time. I see it all the time in the comments section. It's for kids who have no teeth and old age people, seniors, who are losing their teeth. That's who the dental care program is for. It's a farce. It's a charade. I have another one here. Yes, you see these comments all the time. This is just what I was talking about. This is a program that nobody qualifies for. It's not. And as that steel worker from Algoma told Justin Trudeau in Sault Ste. Marie, I can't qualify for the dental plan. Every time I go to the dentist, everybody's paying at least $50. So it's not doing me any good. But my neighbor, who doesn't work, she gets it. So it's one of those Liberal plans that Justin Trudeau is constantly lauding, does it in question period every day when the House is sitting. He's been doing it all summer. He's been talking about what? His affordable housing that's non-existent, his dental plan that doesn't work, his free lunch policy that he claims is going to save Canadians all kinds of money. And it really comes down to Justin Trudeau's free lunch. That's all he has. That will be Justin Trudeau's legacy. Legalized marijuana and a free lunch for kids. That's Justin Trudeau's legacy after 9 years. Let's hope it's not after 10 years. And that gets us back to Jagmeet Singh. We know Singh is saying, I don't listen to Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre said, put up or shut up. He said that numerous times. And if you're serious, Jagmeet, about having an election, vote with us on a no confidence motion at the earliest available opportunity when Parliament comes back on September 16th. That's Monday. It's also the day of a by-election. Carefully watch what happens in this by-election in Montreal. This is David Lamedte's old seat. This is the former Attorney General, Justice Minister, who was part of the gang of criminals who invoked the Emergencies Act on February 14th, 2022. He was part of that gang of criminals that did that. David Lamedte's old
Can't
seat.
deny that this government is unpopular. And there'll be various reasons. Journalists say, well, it's because he's been in power for 9 years, everybody's tired of him. Others would argue that it's because of his policies, which were not passed by the party. There's been no policy forum saying we're going to have the Online Harms Act. No policy forum said you're going to have 11-year-olds saying, I want to change my sex, and you can't tell their parents. And yet we've had a minister stand up and say that has to happen or else we're going to have kids dying in this country. A lot of this stuff, people, normal people, regular people look at it and they say, well, that's just not real. It's not, it's not hinged.
Yeah, I'm glad we found this Producer just put this up. This
We're
is Stephen
not
LeDrew
passed
again,
by the
saying it's all
party.
nonsense.
There's been no policy forum saying we're going to have the Online Harms Act. No policy forum said you're going to have 11-year-olds saying, I want to change my sex, and you can't tell their parents. And yet we've had a minister stand up and say that has to happen or else we're going to have kids dying in this country. A lot of this stuff, people, normal people, regular people look at it and they say, well, that's just not real. It's not, it's not hinged. And if the party had been in place, a lot of that would not have happened. And the three of you know, it was a party policy, the structure before, that there were ways for the party to push back. And Jack, you and I have been in a room when the Prime Minister has come in, when people have said from all across the country, we disagree with that, or we didn't like that. And if you're going to stay in power, you have to pay attention to that. So that's my contention, that there's no question the party is in bad shape. There's no question that this leader has taken a number of steps to make sure that he is a potentate and he doesn't have to fool around with the party or deal with the party, and much to his shame right now, because he wouldn't be as bad as he's perceived by the country.
I'm not in politics at all, but I am interested to learn. I came to Canada in 1988 from Iran, and the reason we came to Canada was because of the freedom, because of the opportunities we could have in this country that they offered to us, and I'm very grateful to be in Canada. I don't even know if this question that I'm going to ask is relevant to you guys, because you're a bunch of intelligent people here with political background, and I'm not. I'm just a regular person. My question is, would freedom of speech ever come back again? Because now in these days, saying any word, I don't know what liberal means anymore. Can we say anything without offending anyone anymore? About cultural or even jokes like, for example, Friends.
This is a liberal
the show Friends, when we watched it, if they made such thing right now, they'll be in trouble. Or Golden Girls, or any of those shows. I'm into entertainment, as you know. So, is this ever going to come back again for me to say I don't like a certain group of people, or it's my opinion? If it's liberal, or if this Canada is about freedom, is that ever going to come back again? That's my question.
Great question. It's such a great question, Stephen, because part of what you brought up in terms of the so-called
Anyway, we'll leave it there, because this is absolutely fascinating. I encourage you to watch. It's an hour and a half, but there's lots of this. The Liberals tried to suppress this. They tried to hide this. They don't want people to know. Justin Trudeau doesn't want people to know what dissent there is within his own party. But I cut that a bit short because we are getting short in time. And I do want to talk about Jagmeet Singh here. Jagmeet Singh is the most egotistical, the most flagrant, narcissistic politician since Justin Trudeau. This man is all about his own ego. It's all about sustaining his own power, staying as the leader of the NDP, getting his government pension in March 2025, and playing political games. Here he is again at the end of his little caucus retreat they stopped all 30 of them in a hotel someplace in Montreal. And here he is talking about the future and what the NDP is going to focus on. And once again, tantalizing you with the idea that, yes, we could have an election, but I'm not going to tell you when. And I'm not going to say if we're going to vote no confidence when the Conservatives bring up. I'm not listening to Pierre Poilievre. He keeps saying that. But of course, looks like he was listening to Pierre Poilievre when he challenged Jagmeet Singh to defy Justin Trudeau and rip up the agreement. He did that 2 days later. Listen to the pathetic politician, Jagmeet Singh. This is a man who just is all about his own power and ego. And listen to his pathetic attempt to say he has some kind of policies.
Next parliamentary session, our priorities are going to be to build homes that people can afford, to lower the price of your groceries, and to fix our healthcare system.
Okay. Yeah, fix our healthcare system. Ain't going to do that in the current form because it just gets more and more expensive. Trudeau put billions of dollars into the healthcare system, and you're still waiting 6 months for a basic operation. It's nothing to do with and the socialist NDP will just say, pour more money into it, pour more money into it, stop private clinics. In fact, they might say, you're not allowed to go to the United States for an operation because that would be un-Canadian. You watch them. They'll go there with that. That will be the next stage for the NDP. And they want to fix the healthcare system. It's not fixable in its current form. And they want more affordable housing. What? Trudeau's already playing that game. And of course, as Singh forgot, don't forget the climate change.
In addition, we're going to always continue to fight to make sure there's justice for Indigenous people and that we are fighting the climate crisis and creating good jobs that allow you to build a life.
The only good job there is the one that you have as the leader of this third party. What is it? No, the fourth. I mean, that is what the jobs you're fighting for. There are no good jobs in this green new energy plan. The Liberal government admitted that. It's all janitorial work. Those are the jobs that are going to replace oil patch jobs. I've said that repeatedly. Internal memo from the Liberal government revealed. The government knows, the Liberal government knows where these jobs are going to be. They're not going to be high-paying jobs. They're going to be janitorial work. And these are the jobs that this fat cat lawyer who has no empathy and no understanding of the working class keeps talking about. And by the way, Jagmeet, buy another suit. Is that the only one you own?
That's our vision for the next parliamentary session. Those are our priorities. With that, I'm ready for any questions you might have. Je suis prêt pour vos questions. We've torn up the agreement with the Liberals. That means they can expect no help and no support from us. Anything that happens in
Okay, he just said he's torn up the agreement with the Liberals. They can expect no help and no support from us. Excuse me? What does that mean? Sounds like he's saying he will support the Conservative non-confidence motion that they raised at the earliest opportunity. He just said they can expect no support and no assistance. The Trudeau government can expect no support, no assistance. Sounds like he's digging himself a grave.
Parliament will be based on is it in the best interest of Canadians. We'll be fighting to find ways to get more relief for Canadians, to get more help to Canadians. That's what we're going to be focused on. And we will use every tool we can to try to get more relief for Canadians. We want to see an approach to fighting the climate crisis where it doesn't put the burden on the backs of working people, where big polluters have to pay their fair share, they have to pay the price of their pollution, but it shouldn't be on working people's shoulders. And so we've been working on a plan and we'll be releasing our plan, our vision for how we can do that in a stronger way in the coming months.
Oh, he's got a secret plan. He's got his own carbon tax plan. So that means, yes, he could fight a carbon tax election like Pierre Poilievre had suggested yesterday. What kind of a game is he playing here? He said he's not listening to Pierre Poilievre. The next day, he comes out with his carbon tax claim that he can fight an election. He can fight a carbon tax election because he's going to have a different carbon tax plan than Justin Trudeau. So therefore, it looks like we might have a fall election. But he's not going to tell you what his carbon tax plan is. I can tell you what it is. It's quite evident. It's going to be some kind of variety of cap and trade deal where the corporations pay for the so-called pollution, carbon pollution, which is, of course, a complete misnomer. Carbon is not a pollution, but they'll be forced to pay for this so-called existential threat. But guess what? They'll pass on the cost to you consumers. The corporations will have to do that because they're going to be penalized unfairly for a so-called existential crisis, for so-called polluting. And it's all a big game. So the socialist plan, I can already tell you, is not going to be any better for you in the end than the Trudeau plan. But let's wait and see what Jagmeet comes up with. Because he's playing this like he's an actor improvising. There's no plan here. He doesn't know what the hell he wants to do. He hasn't got a clue in hell where he wants to go with this. He's playing a game day by day to see, what do I want to do? Have an election in the fall, like November? Wait till the spring until I get my pension guaranteed? He's posturing so he can stay the leader of the NDP, so he can maintain his grip on that little piece of power that he has. Every day he's posturing, he's playing a game, and this is, as Poilievre says, I agree with him on this, this is an ongoing political stunt. The Jagmeet doesn't know where he's going with. He doesn't know if he really wants to rip up the agreement. He doesn't know if he really wants a carbon tax election. He doesn't know if he really wants to propose a new kind of carbon tax. Let's see what happens, because it's improvised. It's improvised political strategy day in, day out. Look, I worked on the Hill for almost 9 years. I know how these people operate. I know how they think. And they don't think strategically. They think about polls. They think about getting through the next week. They think about getting to the next month. And Jagmeet Singh is one of the worst politicians in this category, because he doesn't think about Canada. He doesn't think about Canadians. He has no conception of how working Canadians, average Canadians, have to work so hard to make ends meet. He's never had to do that, and he never will have to do that. Not with his gold-plated pension on the way. And he'll be welcomed back into the elites of corporate Toronto when this job stint as NDP leader is over. But this is a massive ego trip for Jagmeet Singh. But I hope Poilievre forces his hand, because he's digging a grave for himself every day. The more he talks about the necessity for an election, the more he talks about the viability of the NDP running in a carbon tax election, and the more he reveals he doesn't really have a long-term strategy. There's going to be an election, folks. And Jagmeet Singh, unwillingly, unwittingly or not, is going to be a part of that election happening, because this guy just doesn't think clearly. I'm going to leave it at that for now. We've gone over time. Thank you so much for watching today. And by the way, remember Justin Trudeau. Here's Justin Trudeau thinking about the decline of the Liberal Party, because ultimately
I thought I was going to make it through this, but I'm not.
Yeah, he'll make it through this, and it's going to be onward to the WEF for Justin Trudeau. Thank you so much for watching again. I'll be back again tomorrow on Saturday to bring you all the news